Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our playoff content. You know, it's going to get busy. I mean, you might get a bar or two. You almost had a major upset in San Francisco with the Detroit Lions coming into town, rolling out to a 24-7 lead, and then the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy woke up and came back, roaring back 27 unanswered to get the win and go to another Super Bowl and meet the Kansas City Chiefs. Mitchell, that game, how it started.
Devastating. Devastating as a Detroiter, Rich. But I tell you what, I mean, talking about the San Francisco 49ers, you're right about Brock Purdy. This guy, he's the gamer. You know, he might not be the most pretty quarterback out there from a, technicals perspective, but Richard, this guy did it in the clutch, and you were spot on about him. And I know you had a front row seat last night. How was the environment there? I know you said there was a lot of Lions fans, but I know the faithful showed up. What was it like being there last night, Rich?
Mitchell, it was electric, and it was different because the Lions fans, you got to give them a ton of credit. You could see that Honolulu blue in those stands, and the San Francisco 49ers fans rarely ever let that happen. And so that was really cool. And they got quiet in there for a second for San Francisco. They were concerned. There was, and rightfully so, because the Detroit Lions came out with their hair on fire, more physical, executing better defensively. They were flying around. They played inspired football to start this game, Mitchell, and they deserved the lead that they had. I mean, the defense that had been struggled all season, 23rd in points per game, really went out there and played their best football. The D-line was ferocious. Every time you looked up, there were 4 or 5 guys around, and it didn't seem like San Francisco could get anything going. But then second half turns around, and there were a few decisions, the fourth down decisions that were curious to me, where Dan Campbell, 4th and 3 in the first half, kicks the field goal, where I just felt like it's a backbreaker if you score a touchdown there. That's the situation where Gambling Man Dan should come out and you should say, hey, we're just trying to put a nail in the coffin right now and not wait till later. But then later on, the game gets a little tighter and San Francisco gets within a touchdown, and then you say, oh, man, I won't kick the field goal now. I'm going to go for the gusto. And it was curious, but it's a young coach, and you got to give his team a lot of credit for getting there. They came out ready to play. You can't take anything away from that. But Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, Steve Wilks, they made adjustments. But, Mitchell, talk to me about Detroit, because I can't imagine how you were feeling in the first half.
And I'm going to rant here. It was an emotional day, emotional week for the city of Detroit. I mean, we're not used to this, Rich. I mean, we got the Red Wings, the Pistons. I mean, I think they just got their 6th one of the season yesterday. Detroit is not used to this. And this city has been starving for this. And the Detroit Lions has given this city life. And Detroit City, it gets a bad rep. But let me tell you, Detroit is awesome. Everyone in this community is awesome. To see this team, they embody Detroit, true grit. And Richard, I'm so proud of what they were able to accomplish this year. What they showed me last night, sure, they came out on the losing end of this game, but they're here to stay. I mean, this Detroit Lion team, they're not the Dallas Cowboys. They don't show up in the San Francisco and get their doors blown off of them. This team is here to stay. And your colleague, Skip Bayless, with his tweet earlier in the week, that the Lions earned the right to go to San Francisco and get blown out. Shame on you. Maybe you should do some analysis into this Detroit Lion team. They embody something different, something that the Dallas Cowboys do not have. That's toughness in the trenches, Rich. This is where football is made, in the trenches. Penei Sewell, no one wants to line up opposite of him. They got Frank Ragnow, guy's playing with a busted ankle, broken knee. He's got a toe that doesn't work, his neck, his back, you name it. Taylor Decker, this guy's been with the team for almost 10 years. Richard, there are blemishes on this team. Their secondary needs help. But by God, man, they fight like hell. And Dan Campbell is the master motivator. And I know there were some decisions made in this game that ultimately probably cost them an opportunity to win. The 4th downs. But the play was drawn up and it was there. Josh Reynolds didn't make the catch. It is what it is. But Richard, Dan Campbell carries his sword into battle. It's the same sword he kills with, and it's the same sword he got killed with. It is what it is. This team is built with this DNA. They're not going to change. And that's what I love about Dan Campbell. This team, it doesn't matter the platform, doesn't matter the stage. They're going to play with the same identity that got them there in the first place. Richard, I see this team being back in this situation next year. And I know I'm very curious from your perspective. Did you see this coming from this Detroit team? Did you see it being this close of a game? Because I think a lot of people were put on notice last night.
No question, Metro. I saw Detroit having success running the football, no question. Because they've done it all year. They got maulers up front. But did I see them to the tune of 148 yards in the first half and just really dominating the game, time of possession? I think they held it for 11 minutes in the second quarter. No, Mitchell, I cannot say I did. I cannot say I saw that coming. I cannot. But they deserve a lot of credit for what they did. Even in the second half, people are going to say, well, they didn't do nothing in the second half. They converted a 3rd and 12, a 3rd and 18, a 3rd and 4. I mean, Mitchell, you got to give Jared Goff a lot of credit. Jared Goff was standing in there delivering play after play after play. Sure, had some misses, no question. This is a tough defense to play against. But scored 31 points in this game against the number 3 scoring defense in the land. And it's no joke. It's nothing to scoff at. He played a really good game, and he deserves a ton of credit. The San Francisco 49ers just found a way to be better this day. Nothing needs to be taken away from the Detroit Lions and what they were able to do and what they've done this year. They will be back, and I know that Dan Campbell said it's going to be twice as hard. He's for sure correct. But with that comes, hey, you have the experience. Your team knows they can get there. Your team knows, they believe, hey, we deserve to be in these conversations. We were in the Final Four. We will be back. And that was cool to see. The Brock Purdy conversation, I mean, this is a second-year guy out there playing Pro Bowl football when his team needs to have it, making plays down the stretch with his arm, with his legs. Playmaking, Mitchell, playmaking. Yep. Not how it was drawn on the card, not, hey, Kyle Shanahan schemed this up and he threw it to the open guy. Hey, the play broke down. It's not working the way we saw it working. What can you do? And he went out there, 21-yard run, 10-yard run, 21-yard run in a crucial drive where they needed to have it. The defense showed up in a big way. Tayshaun Gibson, a friend of the program. Mitchell, you get on the program, and all of a sudden you start making big plays in the NFC Championship game, and he forced a huge fumble. And guess who the ball fell to, Mitchell? Eric Armstead, another friend of the program. It just seemed like a Richard Sherman podcast meeting at the football, and we'd appreciate that. But that doesn't take away from what this team was able to do. Made really big plays. Christian McCaffrey, again, huge plays down the stretch, just like he did last year in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. He made huge plays, huge runs when his team needed to have it, and it was a great ball game. It was a great ball game. I'm glad San Francisco came out with the win. The environment was electric. As the game got closer, clearly the Niners fans, the faithful, started believing. It got louder. It got crazier. But it takes a lot to execute during those stretches, and they really did. Deebo Samuels, Tayshaun Raekwon Samuel Sr. deserves a ton of credit. Led the team in receiving and did it the hard way. The yak attack. He caught the ball, made people miss, made people feel him. They don't win that game without him. They don't win that game without Nicholas John Bosa. Huge sacks to push the Detroit Lions back in those situations. Pressure all day. Pressure from Eric Armstead all day. Charvarius Ward with good coverage. Deommodore Lenoir with good coverage. Jair Brown with huge tackles early on where it looked like they had a lane, they had open field. But I did not see it going like this. But tip of the cap to the Detroit Lions. What a fight.
It was a tremendous game. And the San Francisco 49ers, Richard, I know you're high as high can be on this team. But, I mean, for me, watching this team, they are the true mold of a championship team. I mean, the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers are different in the sense that They invest in the running backs, right? I mean, Christian McCaffrey, when all else is failing, give him the ball. And they got another one. You call him a receiver, call him a running back, call him whatever you want. Deebo Samuel is a flat out game changer, a game wrecker. It does, dude. They could not bring him down, Rich. Right. I mean, it didn't matter the circumstance. You give it to him on a sweep, you give it to him on a pitch, you give it to him on a bubble screen, whatever it is. Deebo Samuel is going to get you 6 to 8, 10 yards, whatever you need. You got two of those guys, forget about it. I mean, I know Kansas City is going to be a tough matchup, but Richard, I think they got them just because this team can beat you in so many different ways. And we've already touched on it a couple of times, but you were so right about Brock Purdy. I mean, this guy, if he was drafted in the first round, the narrative on him would be totally different, but he's Mr. Irrelevant. So what he's doing doesn't matter, right? He just plays for a great team. He's a guy that is just, a product of Kyle Shanahan. No, this guy went out there. When plays broke down last night, the guy made some big time plays. That float pass, so Juwan Jennings, the one-handed catch over the middle on third down, like, come on. Like, we cannot just dismiss this and overlook it. Breaking out of the tackle, out of a sure sack by Ife Melifonwu, a guy who's come up and resurged this year and really added good life to Detroit secondary late in the season. He scrambles out of that, makes a huge run on a 3rd and long. I mean, these are back-breaking plays, and this guy is only going to get better and better and better. What people don't realize about Brock Purdy is he's slippery. He's got some mobility to him. He doesn't lean on it, but when he needs to lean on it, he does. And it sure showed up last night.